recitation of the Holy Quran by Hafiz Uthman. Today is not an ordinary meeting, this is really a very special public meeting. And we have also part of our panel of speakers is Antonia, so I'm going to kindly request her to come forward. Brother Yusuf, he is going to stand inshallah and address us. Antonia, she is also from SP, Society for the Protection of Unborn Children, SPUC. And if you did see her interview on the BBC, then this is Antonia, very strong, important campaigner for safe real marriage. And also right here today, she's going to address us on a very important issue to give us some guidelines as parents, our children going to the schools, what is really going to happen. So to introduce the program, firstly, I would like to remind you that Alhamdulillah, we have many brothers that have come also from other Masjid, Nobly Muslim Center, and also we have Brother Saghir Hussain here. He is a legal expert here, mashallah. So if there's any complications, he's also going to give us some advice and some support to really tell us what and the reason why we have gathered here at the Purley Masjid on a public meeting on a day which is quite significant. This is the very same day, 11th of January 2018, go back 16 years ago. This was the very same day that Guantanamo Bay was opened. So this is really coincidence that the meeting is taking place. It was only today I learned, and very sadly and very shocking, many of you are aware of our brother Shakir Amir, who was released after 14 years. Today I've learned that there is a 70-year-old person, the oldest person inside Guantanamo, and he has 4 children. He has suffered 3 heart attacks, 2 inside Guantanamo, and he's still inside there, no justice. Probably he is waiting for justice he may never see in his lifetime. That is the sad reality, and that is why there were many Muslim, I would say those from the no-faith community, they had gathered outside the Trafalgar Square, standing outside in the rain, in the bitter cold. And these were the very same people that used to campaign, I remember the days for Shakir Amir. So really, we need to support this great effort. Aim should be to shut down Guantanamo Bay completely. How can they still remain 41 detainees that are still remaining there? This is an injustice. We have our challenges. Today we have gathered here to understand how our children are going to be impacted in September 2019. And there are those who have no contact with their children. 16 years have gone by. It is the duty, and that is why the Muslim, his duty is, yes, we all have a duty to be worshipping our Creator. We have those from the different faiths, and we have here Antonia, who is from the Catholic faith. And yes, indeed, there are, as our Islam, as our deen teaches, that we may have a lot of commonalities, and there may be a lot of differences. And some of the differences we may never come and agree upon. But there are issues which we can come together. Like supporting justice is a campaign which we can come together. And this issue to protect our children in the schools. If we are really concerned of our 5-year, 6-year, our children that is going to the primary schools, can you imagine if they are going to be given an education with regard to relationship, and as parents, how would you feel if the father or the mother, they don't want to discuss certain material which they may feel very inappropriate for the young child? What will be the consequence of that father and that mother who is sending his child to the school and has the feeling that the child is safe and secure? What will happen to the child when it reaches the age of 10? So 5 years of age, and the Prophet ﷺ beautifully explained in a hadith, "Muru awladakum bis-salati wa hum abna'u sab'i sinin." You command your children to perform prayers when they reach the age of 7. You enforce them when they reach the age of 10. Meaning salah and prayers become part of their life. And not only that, the Prophet ﷺ, when they reach the age of 7, they are able to identify, they are able to distinguish, they are able to know many, many things. And hence, he ﷺ said, you also separate the bed. وَفَرِّقُوا الْمَضَاجِعِ. What does it mean? So this is guidelines from the Prophet ﷺ. But right now, first I'm going to ask Brother Yusuf Patel to introduce today's program, to tell us exactly what is this consultation about and why, as parents, we should be concerned. Brother Yusuf Patel, as was announced, he is a very long campaigner. and supporting those, especially parents who have concerns about their children with the SRE, and giving them that support. He has been, really many parents have contacted him, and he probably will share with us some of the examples.
الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين والصلاة والسلام على سيدنا محمد بن عبد الله خاتم الأنبياء والمرسلين. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. I'm going to introduce some of the issues around the context behind the plans to make SRE statutory, and where we are, why we are where we are today. And I'll pass over to Antonio, who will give some advice about the consultation and help you to become more better prepared to respond to the consultation. The first question I want to ask really is, who is responsible for raising your children? That's a very important question. I know that sounds like it has a very obvious answer, but it's a very important question to ask and answer. And it's very important that we shout very loudly and resoundingly in response to this question, say we are. Because there are many different institutions of the state and others who will try and take away that responsibility from you. But as we believe that that responsibility has been given by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, has been given by God, by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, then nobody really can take away that responsibility, even if they take it away from you in name. The Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam contextualized this when he said, "Kullukum ra'in wa kullukum mas'ulun an ra'iyatihi." That the Messenger of Allah talked about that each of you is responsible. You are like shepherds. You are shepherds over your flock. You are the ones in charge of those flocks, and you have a responsibility. And the two aspects of this that come to mind is you have the responsibility, but you also have accountability, because you will also be questioned. We'll all be questioned about how we discharge that responsibility. And then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the Quran, Ya ayyuhal ladhina amanu, ku anfusakum wa ahlikum nara. That Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says that, oh, you who believe, save yourselves and your family from the fire. So not only did the Messenger of Allah set a responsibility for us in raising our children, but Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala clarified what that meant. What success means in raising your children. It is to safeguard them, to protect them. And it is often the case that we look at all the dangers that our children may come across as they grow up, as they grow older. And we think about those dangers, and we say, one of the dangers is, for example, maybe the danger is fast-moving traffic. As somebody walks out onto the street, there's fast-moving traffic, and we've got to make sure that our children are protected from those dangers. So we say to our children, be careful about the way you cross the road. We show them how to cross the road, and we remind them, we model that behavior by showing them how it is that they safely cross the road. We think about all the physical dangers that exist around them, but sometimes we don't think about those non-physical dangers. We don't think about the influences that encircle them every single day. We don't think about those things which are shaping their mentality, shaping their behavior, shaping their very identity. We don't think about those things because maybe they're not as clear and present as dangers in our minds as the moving traffic on the street. But they are even more dangerous. They're even more dangerous because they will decide, or they will determine the types of values, the types of ideas, the types of behaviors your children will show as they grow older. And as they're younger and they're nurtured by us as parents, it is even more important that we take care of the values that they hold from a young age. As a Muslim community, as other communities as well, we believe in certain values. We believe in the importance of family, but a very specific understanding of family. We believe in marriage between a man and a woman as being the fulcrum or the center of family life, from which a family exists, from which a family is nurtured, from which children develop, and from which, really, in this day and age, from which, in the turbulent world that our children live, is actually that bastion of security, of stability. And actually it's probably the only, at the moment, the only institution within our society which creates stability in the lives of our children. And it is very clear that everybody is trying to undermine marriage and undermine the family. And it is important for us to recognize this. It is important for us to recognize that through the media and popular culture, every day we see our children are exposed to messages and images that undermine their idea of what family is about and marriage is about. They boil down to just that the relationship between men and women is about fleeting encounters. They're not about anything substantial, anything based on any real values, any values that are tried and tested throughout time and like marriages. They are just fleeting encounters. They're just temporary methods that people use to satisfy themselves sexually. But they're not in any way the model that we have come to recognize as being the relationship between men and women through marriage. Unfortunately, the government also undermines marriage. The government undermined marriage a few years ago when it decided to change this whole definition or redefine the whole idea of what marriage actually is, and said that marriage is not anymore between just a man and a woman. We've opened it up so that we can create something called equal marriage. Marriage is now between a man and a woman and a woman. And that this is also a definition in flux, and this will change as society's sensibilities change in the future. But another thing so the main thing we want to talk about today, and I want to give a bit of a background to this, is this whole idea that the government has come out with to make SRE statutory. As we all know, different groups have been trying to influence the government to make SRE statutory for many years. So as we know, sex and relationship education is a subject that is taught within primary and secondary schools. At the moment, schools have the right to decide whether they teach it or not, or how they teach it, or how they don't teach it. It's up to schools. And parents have a huge responsibility in shaping how it's taught. Now in practice, there's a huge problem with the way schools interact with parents. There's a huge problem with the way schools consult parents. But this is what the law stands. This is the law as it stands at the moment. Parents also have the right to withdraw their children from SRE classes from the age of 5 up to the age of 19. They've got the right to withdraw their children from these classes. But the government has unveiled changes. Now these changes did not happen just today or yesterday. These started many years ago from these lobby groups like Stonewall and others who have been trying to push for SRE to be made statutory, for SRE to include a lot more information about how normal homosexual relationships are. And they've been pushing this for many years. But it came to a head back in March of last year. The government sneaked through in a children and social work bill in March. It sneaked through right at the last minute, sneaked through an amendment to make SRE statutory. And this passed very quickly because it wanted to pass without much opposition. So it didn't allow for people to come together and oppose it. It just brought it through and said this is what we're going to do, and passed it through Parliament and used the same MPs to push it through. Now from that moment, SRE was going to be made statutory, and SRE is going to be made statutory. This is nothing that we can't change this. We can't say now we don't want it to be made statutory. It will happen. And the government has said that by September 2019, SRE will be made statutory. Now the way that works in schools is something that I want to discuss now. So in secondary schools, it's going to change SRE into RSE. So it's going to call it relationship and sex education. So and this is something that's been discussed for a long time. That when you say sex and relationship education to parents, they say, how can you talk about this to our children? This is unacceptable. So they said that instead of calling it SRE, we'll call it RSE. and we'll focus more on the relationships. But this is more about terminology, this is more about creating an impression amongst parents that there's nothing to be worried about. And actually there are a lot to be worried about. One of the things that's important to understand is that this is going to impact all children. Whether those children go to state schools, whether those children go to faith schools, whether those children go to independent schools, or whether they are in academies, this is going to affect all children. Because this new law is going to be implemented in all of the educational institutions that we know exist, whether state schools, academic schools, independent schools or faith schools. In secondary schools also, that they've said that the right to remain, the right to withdraw will remain. So parents in secondary schools will still have the right to withdraw. But the only thing is they've mentioned when they've talked about the right to withdraw, they said that the law has changed since then. Laws around consent and about including children in decision making has changed. So we need to start thinking about what that means in practice. So they said that we need to include children in decision making around SRE. So what that means in practice is unclear, but it could potentially